Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Joe?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to get a chance to speak with you.
Pleasure to be here.
I'm sorry. So you reach out to me, I think via Facebook, and you and I get to talk. And I think I saw you in one of the streams that we were doing recently. And you tell me you've been trying to get in contact with me for a while, huh?
Yeah. Since since you were, helping people and it was going wrong and I was in active addiction at the time and you were really an inspiration to me. So I've been following along ever since Rabbit was living in that little shed looking place. Like
Yeah.
I've been following a long time since before way before that, but been following a long time.
Well, the first thing I
And
want to say is, and sorry for cutting you off. The first thing I want to say is, I greatly appreciate your support. I appreciate you rocking with the show. And hey, you're an Alabama guy too, which is, interesting
Yeah.
considering, there we go, roll tide, considering all things Brandy right this second, Brandy in Alabama. So now we got you, and you're from the same state.
Right. I mean, I can totally relate to a lot of the things she's saying. Being an officer as well as an inmate. I had to deal with the procedures on both sides of the wall, and I was a court officer as well.
Hmm.
So I know how bad it is in the state of Alabama, and you having problems with the connection. Gotta believe that's the state of Alabama system.
Yeah. I'm sure it is. It's funny to me how far along we are technologically advanced, but yet in these jails and prisons, the signal and service is just horrible. It's almost like you got a better connection trying to reach Mars than to reach some of these folks incarcerated.
Yeah, it's which when I was locked up, it was before the process had come down, and you're talking one 6 minute video call was like $10.
Wow.
So it's insane uh what they charge and how and even the markup on the commissary.
Yeah.
It's insane what they were charging even back in when I was locked up. Back 2008, 9, somewhere around in there.
Oh, really?
Uh
That's when you had served your time?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it was a pre-trial detention facility. When I left in 2007, they had 1,300 inmates and approximately 200 to 225 inmate. I'm sorry, corrections officers. So 1,300 inmates to 225 officers.
Wow.
And you might be in the pod alone with 75 people, and you're the only officer there locked in. And their charges may range from a traffic violation to murder.
Well, let's hold tight real quick and get people caught up right here because we were just talking about you being an inmate and now you're talking about being a guard. And for anybody who may have missed that, that's a big part of your story. You were a
Right,
correctional
right.
officer in the state of Alabama, and then you ended up being a prisoner in that same state, same jail that you worked in as well.
Right, right. I guess I apologize. Let me back up. So, 2002, I decided I wanted to, maybe try to be a police officer because a lot of the people in my family had been police officers. So, I was 6'4", 370 pounds. There was no way I was passing the physical training test to be a police officer in the state of Alabama. So the closest thing that I could do was to become a corrections officer. So I did such, went to the academy, graduated, got tased, got sprayed, got all that. Come home, went to worked for them till 2007. And during that time, uh, a lot of things changed. When I first started for the county, they were actually had been being sued by the inmates in a federal class action lawsuit due to inmate conditions, understaffing, lack of medical, and also, the overcrowdedness. There were guys at one point before I worked there, it had gotten as bad as um, guys taking shifts in the bed. You have three men sleeping in one bed, 8 hour shifts. You get 8 hours, you get 8 hours, you get 8 hours.
That is insanity. Talking about three prisoners sharing one bunk. Real quick, let me jump in here. Sorry about this. I need to do something real quick. Let me
No problem, no problem.
I'm not stopping this, but I have got to get this Discord. I got to get off of Discord because I cannot have all of those alerts going off.
Connections.
Yeah, it's beeping the entire time we're doing this interview, and I'm not trying. People are going to be like, Joe, what the hell are you doing playing a video game while you're talking to this guy? All right. I also want to say this as well, too. And forgive the way that this is about to sound, but it's the truth. You know, I've done a lot of videos, and in some of those videos, I've talked about correctional officers. And there is like this stereotypical way that a correctional officer is sometimes viewed. And that is a guy that can't become a police officer, like either fails out or just can't become a police officer, so he becomes a prison guard. You've got
Right.
that. Unfortunately, you've got that box checked off. You said that you were
Right.
overweight. You couldn't get through the academy, but look at you now. You're super skinny. That's a huge part of your story. And
Right.
unfortunately, there's going to be another stigma or stereotypical thing that had taken place in your life while you were a guard. And that was pretty much the breaking point in your life. And I'm going to ask if you would be willing to share that very personal situation that you told me about yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I worked there for a long time, and it was more than just one thing to lead me to have a mental break at work. But you know, I the politics, of the government, they wanted us to write them up for the smallest things, take their store and visitation over. If a person needed a Tylenol for a headache, you have to fill out a sick call slip for it. Well, they call you sick call the next day and you take your Tylenol and the headache goes away. Well, they prescribe the sick call meds for a week. So if you don't get up and take that meds at any time during that week that you're supposed to take them, they were expected us to write the inmates up, take their store, take their visitation, depending on how many offenses they had had at not getting up and taking their meds. And I just felt like they got to the point to where they wanted us to treat them like animals, and that's just not the person that I am.
So that
And
was
it ended up making me so like have so much animosity towards the sheriff's department that I was in a bad mood in the cell. And at that point, I realized that it was time for me to go because it was dangerous for me. The guys on the inside did not deserve to be treated with snappy, tones. And just because I'm in a bad mood because I hate my job, it's not their fault. So, I had a superior officer come in and tell me he was going to write me up if I didn't write those inmates up and take their store. And I snapped and tore the inside of the control panel up, tore the cabinet doors off. I mean, I snapped, went off. So they ended up sending me for a psych evaluation, a 6-week psych evaluation. I was paid time off. And, when that evaluation was done, I was cleared to go back to work, but I just chose not to.
there
It's
was a
just, it's not,
there was something else that happened,
yeah,
involving
yeah, the
involving your
divorce.
involving your wife, and I kind of feel like maybe that's where this snowball effect really started to come from. You know, I feel like that.
Absolutely.
I feel like that was probably the beginning of your breaking point. And again, this is going to be one of those stereotypical situations that, you know, prisoners would, you know, I remember laughing and joking about stuff like this. You actually experienced this. You're
The
working.
sad part about it is the inmates and general population treated me better as an inmate than the officers I previously had worked with.
Just goes to show
But
you.
yes, I agree. I agree totally. The divorce, I was working at the sheriff's department, working third shift, and had built up too much sick leave time. So at the end of the year, they say, hey, go home a half a day here, come in a half a day late, so you don't lose the overage of sick leave that you built. So I had no idea I was going to be coming home that night. I went to work same time as ever, got there 10:45. And they told me to go leave at 2:45. So I got home about 3:15 in the morning. There's two strange cars in my driveway that I've never seen. My wife's car's there and two other cars. All the lights are out in the house. Of course, I'm a corrections officer wanting to be a cop. I'm always toting a pew pew. And so I quietly unlocked the door and walked down the hallway, and I catch my now ex-wife in the bed with two guys. She worked in a government facility where she was a clerk, and both gentlemen that was in my bed with my wife happened to be elected officials' sons that she worked for.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, that was over. I don't know how I kept from shooting them, to be honest with you. I was numb, but
You shared with me
walked
that you
out.
were, and let's talk about that, because at the end of this, when you're tearing the doors off of the control room, you're completely unhinged. But this potentially was the beginning of that breaking point. But you shared with me yesterday, you said you felt like you probably didn't do it because you were numb, like you just said, but you were on a pretty high dosage of antidepressants, weren't you?
Due to the fact that I was so stressed out from being a corrections officer and the politics. They had me on so much antidepressant medication that I had no emotion, and that saved their life. It literally saved their life.
For the third time, I want to say again, just one of those stereotypical situations. You become a correctional officer because you can't be a cop. You're working third shift while you're at work. Your wife, wow, look at that. Yeah, man.
And this is after I had started losing the weight. But yeah. Yeah,
That's you, huh?
yeah. But apologize for that. I didn't want that picture no way. I just throwed it on the ground.
It's
I can't
evident.
believe I even still have that picture, but it's part of my life. So
It's evident that you being a correctional officer really caused some trauma for you. Not just what you were dealing with on the job and off of the job, but just, well, I guess, both of those two things. I'm very sorry
yeah,
for the situation you went through with your wife. I do want to say that that's a horrible thing. And real quick before we move on, sorry for cutting you off. Did she ever try to contact you after the fact? Maybe try to explain herself, reconcile?
we split in the beginning, and our house was like right across the street from her parents, her grandparents. I wasn't staying in that house. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so she could have the house and the $750 payment to go with it. But when I guess it'd been a month later, and she contacted me and begged me to come back home, and I knew better. I knew better than to come back home, and I came back home and took her on a trip to Gatlinburg, and we blowed a bunch of money and then got back home, and she decided she wanted to be with the other man.
Oh man.
One of the other men that was in the bed with her that night.
Yeah, I'm super sorry. Can't even imagine.
And
And
the crazy part is too, even after that, after I divorced her, I was still a corrections officer. This is before I snapped. I was dating a girl that was 19 and I was 28, which is dumb, but I wouldn't ever go that young again,
I've
being
heard,
older. Which,
I've heard of a lot worse these days, so that's not too terribly bad.
but she invited her childhood friend over to my apartment and her boyfriend, and they knew I was a corrections officer, and they ended up coming back while I was at work and robbing me of all my guns, everything. And I was a corrections officer. So the next girl I was with, her best friends robbed me blind. I had guns that were, I had things that were willed to me by family members that I care about that are long gone in some crack house.
Did you ever file a police report, which I'm sure you did?
Oh,
And
they caught him. Yeah, they caught him. But you know how restitution goes. You never see it. You know, I had a restitution. I'd rather have the items than the restitution. But
did the
they
girlfriend that you were dating at the time, the 19-year-old girl, did she get charged as well?
no, they never charged her. Surprisingly, she was very much a part of the investigation, but ended up the girl that I was dating, her best friend ended up confessing because they was about to charge all three of them, especially since how I lived in the same county as the sheriff's department I worked in at. So those guys are going to protect their own.
Mm.
It was about to get ugly. So the girl ended up confessing everything, and you
Did,
know,
did you think that
it was
the
wild.
did you think that the 19-year-old girl that you were dating at the time had something to do with it?
No, no. You know, that her family had taken that girl on vacations as children all through their life. I mean, they were inseparable. I just don't believe that people are inherently that evil.
I hate to tell you this, but the comment section is going to say otherwise. You know, and even me,
Maybe so. And with some age, I'm 48 now.
yeah.
I
Look,
don't trust nobody.
rightfully
You
so.
know,
Look at everything that you've been through. I'm
uh,
sorry about that. You know, I'm sorry about the string of bad luck that you've had with women. Um, you know, nobody deserves that.
hey, I've been married 7 going on 8 years now, and this one helped get me sober, get me uh clean, and help me stay clean for 5 years in August.
Good for you, Jason.
So there are good women out there.
Good for you. I'm glad to hear that you got somebody that is really there for you. Um, let's go ahead and move on. You were a correctional officer. You hated the job. You end up,
It was exciting.
was it?
Yes, it was very much exciting. From I came in one night about I was working third shift and did a head count. 4 inmates were missing. So I give the radio call. They surrounded the courthouse, and mind you, the jail is not on the ninth and 10th floor of the county courthouse. So when they escaped, they had to go down that many floors to escape. Well, ended up they did an investigation. One of them had been in there for murder. One of them was stupid. He was about to get out in a week. Like, what are you thinking, catching an escape charge, and you're about to be released
Yeah,
in a
no.
week? But they ended up catching all four of them within about a month. The murderer ended up uh, he ended up staying out the longest. But somebody had sent them a Bible with a piece of a hacksaw blade glued in the rind, and nobody checked it. And they cut through the water chase door, and climbed up to the 11th floor and got on the elevator and went all the way down to the ground floor, and the door they just so happened to walk out of the main courthouse doors, there's doors on all four sides. The alarm just so happened to be broken on that particular door.
Yeah, they got lucky there.
So second shift didn't even know they were gone, bro. Like they had been gone.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Not to mention somebody brought them a hammer, or they found a hammer on the 11th floor because they had to knock holes in concrete barrier walls. Like, how are you sitting there as an officer and not hearing somebody knock through a concrete wall with a mini sledge?
They might have been working on this for a couple of weeks. This might not have been a one and done, like a one night, hey, let's just do all this.
Well, you've seen those water pipe chase locks, those locking blocks. I know you have. You've seen those steel blocks. Imagine cutting through one of those with a hacksaw blade.
Yeah, it's going to take you some
and
time.
How long that would take?
That is that's pretty crazy.
I seen a guy swan dive off the second balcony, head first.
Just trying to end it.
Yeah, just so happened he had the same last name as me. He went in a workforce place and opened fire with a fully automatic weapon.
Oh my God.
And in Huntsville, Alabama. And yeah, honestly, he bounced and it didn't even kill him. Like he bounced. It's the sound of a human body hitting the concrete is just wild, bro. It's something you'll never forget. Sounds like 10 pounds of bologna dropped from about 5 stories.
Yeah, that's a good analogy right there.
But
do you think that seeing things like that and experiencing that might have played into some of the trauma?
Oh, most definitely. You see people in there with pedo charges and things that they do to children, and it's just sickening, and you have to treat them like they're an upstanding member of society. And that gets hard, especially if you're a little bit sick of your job, or you got some stuff going on at home, or, whatever. You go in and you might be in a good mood before you get there, but when you get there, you got 4,000 adult children needing to get a sick call slip, or needing this or needing that, and and they bombard you like there's no other officer to ask. But that's the thing I found in my dealings with them, that was the case, that there were only certain officers that would do what they said they were going to do. If I tell you I'm going to get you a sick call slip, I get you a sick call slip. There's only certain officers that will do that.
Wow.
That will do their job. A lot of them say, yeah, I'll bring you one, and they go hide in the pod for the rest of the shift.
That brings us to a good point right here. What kind of an officer were you? Were you a hard ass? Did you try to be fair?
Well, if this tells you anything, I was in General Pop as an inmate.
Yeah, so you definitely weren't, you probably treated people pretty fair. I tried to
help those guys until it got to the point to where I could see my anger was skewing my treatment of them. And I quit.
Hold on one second.
Smoked more Mary Jane when I worked there than I ever have in my whole life due to the stress.
You smoked weed as a correctional officer?
I had to. I'd been done snap. Like,
was weed
just the stress?
And I know that weed was not legal there.
Still not.
Wow, that's crazy to think about. Were there any times that you ever came into work intoxicated from the? Did you ever go to work high? What am I talking about?
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one.
God, can you imagine seeing a guard come in and he's looking like freaking Cheech and Chong in the face? Like, that's hilarious to me.
These days you couldn't do it because the stuff's so strong they smell it a mile away. But to be honest with you, they had more than I had
on the inside.
when I worked before the jails went metro, when the jail was in the courthouse, the county courthouse, the 10th floor guys, they referred to the 10th floor as a Thunderdome. You can look it up. It's in Huntsville's history. It's one of the worst places. More murders happen there. I mean, folks getting beat up like it's just within half of an inch of their life. But these guys knocked a window out. You know, there's a catwalk all the way around the outside of the cells on the interior of the building, so they can't get to the outside walls. Well, they took a mop handle and knocked the window out in a window on the opposite side of the catwalk of the day room, and they made a rope out of black trash bags, braided. I don't know how they done it, twisted and braided, and made a rope that they could hang something heavy on, and they were fishing their stuff up 10 stories, bro. 10 stories.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Like if you're that smart that you can figure out how to do that, why are you in jail?
Yeah.
Like, I just always wanted the best. You know, there was officers that got caught up in, and you can look these up too. There was an officer there that his cousin got locked up for, I want to believe it was moving violations in a car. I don't know if it was a stolen car. I don't know, but it was moving violations. It was nothing major. It wasn't a felony. Kid was like 18 or 19. Well, he just so happened to be a cousin of one of the officers that worked there. Well, that officer had been bringing in dope to this particular cell that had, it was pretty much all, you know, capital murder, essays, stuff like that. It was all one gang, pretty much, group. And so they put this officer's cousin in this cell with all these killers and felons. And at this time, this particular officer was being investigated by internal services and, you know, internal investigations. And they found, and he was catching heat, and he knew he was about to catch heat. So he told them guys up there, hey, I'm not bringing anything else up here. They about, you know, we need to chill. And they're like, no, you're not going to quit bringing anything up here or else. Well, he quit bringing stuff up there, and they ended up beating the officer's cousin to death.
Oh, wow.
Pretty sad situation. But yeah, it's you know, the amount of mental illness that's in there too, you know, it's crazy. One of the worst fights I ever broke up was between two special needs people, and both of them were about 6'4", 300 pounds. Now you can imagine the strength between those two.
Yeah.
Took 12 officers, 3 tasers, CERT team. Like, we like to never got them apart. But, you know, it's yeah, the trauma of all that, you know, I'm really blessed that I didn't snap on anybody that I didn't need to. You know, there's a guy named Muhammad Sharifi that had killed his wife and her mistress. And what they don't tell you in the police report is they caught him riding around with the male's head in the back seat of his car. That is not in the news. Just crazy, you know, and this is years ago, so I can't imagine what it's like now. You know, I hope that the jails are in better shape in Alabama, but due to what I'm seeing with AfterPrisonShow,
they're not.
Seems like the same old shadiness is still going on.
And they're probably even worse. And now it's being, you know, heavily documented because of the cell phone footage that's coming out. I don't know necessarily about Alabama, but Georgia for sure. And those are pretty close to each other. So Yeah, it's probably pretty
Yeah, I
tough.
mean, I've actually been to Florence where she's locked up. I've lived in Athens, which is where the Limestone Correctional Facility is. It's a prison.
Okay.
It's a state prison. It's a work release facility. I've toured St. Clair, which is, I don't know if it is the highest security camp, but it's one of the highest security camps. When we got done with the academy as an officer, they took us down there to let us tour, and those guys were catcalling to us, talking about fresh meat, and of course, we were all green, probably looked scared to death. Walking in a max camp prison
Oh, I'm
for
sure.
the first time.
I want to go ahead and move on.
All right.
Because I know a lot of people are watching this saying to themselves, well, what did you get locked up for? And, to go ahead and just throw that out there, it wasn't for anything too serious. It was for a DUI, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had weight loss surgery back in 2004, during the middle of the time that I worked for the sheriff's department. Now, mind you, I weighed 370 pounds, 6'4". When I started there, and that's the reason they hired me, was because I was big. And honestly, I caught a lot of slack because I lost all the weight at, from a lot of the officers. A lot of officers felt like that I wasn't, able to help defend them in case of a bad situation, and that may have been true because there for a while, at times I was in the 130s and I'm 6'4".
Wow.
So, gotta love going from 370 to looking like a crackhead. But, that's just, the surgery just worked way too well on me. But, during that time, I lost all that weight, and, it changed things as far as, my role as an officer. Um, and to be honest with you, Joe, my head went through a windshield in 19, and my train of thought just completely lost me. What did you say?
No, I said I wanted to move on to when you got incarcerated yourself.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You had a DUI charge. How did that lead to you ended up in general population?
So I became alcoholic due to the surgery, weight loss surgery. And, after I lost all my weight, got divorced, started looking good, lifting weights, got a little confidence about me. I was 28 years old, never been to a dance club a day in my life. And went and started partying, and I was pretty much full blown alcoholic at that point, and got pulled over by state, and state don't play, as they probably don't anywhere.
Yeah.
But they pulled me out of the car, and I was drunk as a skunk, but passed the field sobriety test. Yeah. And so I'm thinking, wait, I passed the field sobriety test. All this liquor has got to be wore off of me by now. So my idiot self let him blow me.
Pause.
And
That sounded horrible.
yeah, that did sound. Let's just
He gave you the
no diddy.
breathalyzer.
Let's just go on ahead and say no diddy. But I blew a .349.
Good God. That's like
Yeah.
that's like what 10 times the legal limit.
Yeah, it's the cop was like, I'm impressed you're even walking and talking.
You're not. That's not even a DUI. That's alcohol poisoning right there.
Yeah, that's like it took me 3 days to get out of the drunk tank.
Good.
Yeah.
I shouldn't laugh because obviously you
In
had
the
a problem
same
with
jail
drinking.
I worked at. Again, let me remind everybody. I was, in the drunk tank in the same jail I worked at, and it was awful. It was freezing, you know, but I did the crime, And they ended up, once I got sober, they released me on my own recognizance. And
Did you still have a
I
job
went
at that
on about,
point?
yeah, I had a job working for a printing company. And
Oh, that's right. You're long gone from the sheriff's office by
yeah,
this
I
point.
had I had I had been gone probably a year and a half, 2 years from the sheriff's department at this point, and I had gotten a job there, and they put for the DUI. They for my first DUI, and of course the judge I went before, her son had been killed by a DUI
Mm.
driver, and me being an officer, she pretty much my first DUI gave me the most strictest sentence she could give me, which was 2 years split, or 2 years probation, split 6 months in jail. With nobody being injured, I just was simply got caught DUI,
That's
which
insanity.
uh, so I the probation fines and fees were ridiculous, and me being newly divorced and barely keeping my head above water, on bills. Uh, it was tough for me to pay all these fines and fees for probation. So they assigned me a female probation officer, and she was a tough cookie. And I knew, right then that it was going to be a long road with her. Actually, I was familiar with her already from working there. But the second month that I had probation fines, money was tight and I had to pay rent, and it was either pay rent or pay probation fines, and I paid rent, and she violated me. So I did 6 months day for day in the same jail I worked at for 5 years.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't even
Same
imagine what that's
officer,
like.
same officers. Man, the shade that I got from uh, uh, a good majority of the officers. There were a few in there that really tried to help me out, but my family, they weren't rocking with me because of what I done. And I don't blame them. And I never begged them to, because I was ashamed of what I done. But addiction is addiction, we all know. And if they knew how many DUIs I got, I would still be in prison, because I got so many DUIs in different places in different counties that every time they charge me with DUI first. In the state of Alabama, on your third one, it's a mandatory year. I got 7,
Mm.
and the longest I ever done was 6 months in jail. Now, if you don't tell me the good man above wasn't looking out for me,
Yeah.
you know, which I wasn't doing him no favors. I will say the only DUI that I was driving was the initial first one. Every other time I was passed out in the car with the keys in the ignition, parked, because I didn't want to hurt nobody.
And you still got a DUI for that?
Yeah, because if the keys are in the ignition, you have intent to operate that motor vehicle in the
Wow.
state of Alabama.
Unreal. Let's talk a little bit about this experience of you being incarcerated. You served 6 months in there. You said that you got a lot of shade from the officers, but there were a few who tried to, help you. However, what about the prisoners? Were any of the prisoners in there people you were familiar with? Maybe, they knew you from being a guard?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I When I went in, like, I'm like, do I say anything? And but I was like, nah, you better keep your mouth shut. You know what I mean? Like, if they recognize you, they recognize you. And slowly but surely, they were bringing people in with the rotation of the inmates. And there were people in there that noticed me immediately, but they couldn't put their finger on where they recognized me from, because the way I looked had changed so much. Because they knew me when I was heavier, a lot of them, and now that I had lost a lot of weight, I looked totally different. But I did feel like I had to walk with my watching my back and sleep with my eyes open at all times, given what normally happens.
Yeah. Well,
I'm no idiot.
well, did any problems get brought to you? You do 6 months in
Mm.
there, people recognize, and I would figure that they wouldn't. You were a run of the mill correctional officer. It doesn't sound like you were a hard ass. You tried to help these guys, getting them sick call slips anytime that you could. You were doing your job, and then you end up in there for a freaking DUI. Like there's nothing that you, in my opinion, there's nothing that you would have had to have worried about with that. And like you had said, you were getting treated at certain points in your life, whether as a correctional officer, maybe even as an inmate, you were getting treated better by the prisoner population than you were by the normal everyday folks that you were dealing with.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't knock my dad. My dad, he's he wouldn't have visited me just out of principle. But my mother, in those 6 months, my mother visited me twice, but she lived in uh, Texas at the time, and it was right around when video chat visiting was just like on the cusp of, you know,
Yeah.
getting big. So she didn't really have the money to come down and visit me that often, so I was pretty much in the same situation as Brandy. Not quite as long, but you could imagine being an officer. You ain't gonna get throwed no suit. You might not get beat up, but you definitely ain't getting throwed no soup or
Mm.
getting in on the burrito or whatever. Um, but luckily, I I found me a hustle, and was able to give me a hustle and make me some soups and
What was that
things.
hustle?
Cause drawing.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I was making birthday cards and doing letterheads and at times, because I was so well spoken, at times I would help these guys articulate their words better so that they wanted their woman to be impressed. And I had some, a little bit of smarts on me. I could, the sheriff's department taught you how to use your words. That's for sure. So, I would always, my hustle was just helping guys get sweet letters to their women and, drawing pictures and things of that nature.
I've spoke
Um,
on this before a long, long time ago, but it sounds like what you were doing was actually writing letters for other prisoners in there. Were you writing whole letters for them?
Yeah, I mean, they would tell me, what the things that they wanted to say, like key points, and I would just uh, pretty much, I was basically the the book editor, the letter editor.
Yeah.
Uh, because a lot of these guys, and I'm not talking down on them, but a lot of these guys, they're just
Illiterate.
not bright.
Yeah.
They're just not bright, and then they're not good with words. They may be the best human in the world and will give you the shirt off your back, and that's their characteristic. That's what makes them the best human. They're not known for being smart. So I would always, you know, help the guys make sure that their words hit the way they wanted them to when they were trying to express the way they felt about their significant other.
Good for you.
So it ended up, I did all right. Uh, I did all right as far as store goes, but that really, I had more inmates inquiring about what it was like to be both. Like that was story time with me. Was they loved it, telling uh, things that I had been through and what it was like being an inmate, after being an officer for 5 years, and uh, every one of them asked me, "You're not worried?" And of course, you say no because you're not going to show that.
Yeah.
But you damn right you're worried. Like, you don't sleep that good when you're an officer. But if I had done something that I had had a charge that I was really worried about my well-being, then it would have been awful. Honestly, when I first got locked up for the 6 months, they held me in solitary for the first 2 or 3 weeks, and I told them, I said, look here, y'all gonna have to get me out of here because I'm naming these concrete blocks. So they ended up bringing paperwork in there for me to sign saying that I would not sue the county if an inmate beat me up due to the fact that I was a former officer.
Wow.
That's the only way they would let me out of solitary.
Wow. Listen, Jason, I want to stop here. I want to let this be a good place for us to end this video.
Okay.
This thing started off a little rocky, and that's my fault, actually. I just, for whatever reason, wasn't hitting on all cylinders. But, man,
I talk too much, too, dude.
No, man, you are great. And this actually was so much more. I knew that this was going to be good, or at least I felt like it was. But this is so much even more than what I was first anticipating. So I'd like to end this here. Let people soak in everything that we've shared in this video. Hey, let's reconnect really soon, and let's do a part 2 to this.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm retired. I filed for disability in 21. And like I told you before, the disability doctor that they sent me to said that I was disabled in all 6 categories. And you only have to have 2 categories deemed disabled to get disability. And they have since denied me 3 times for disability after their own doctor has marked me disabled in all 6 categories. I have, after my head went, I've had 2 traumatic brain injuries, and I had facial reconstructive surgery and all that stuff. And my PTSD, I can't deal with people, so I stay at home a lot. All these idiots out here in public, I'll be done snapped and called them out. I feel like since I got my life together, everybody else should too. And the PTSD, it's weird. Like after that head injury, loud noises like piss me off. Like I don't like babies crying. I can't really be around babies. And I was a mechanic, so you imagine me forgetting to bolt somebody's brakes back together. Like that's my thing. My memory's gone. I can't remember nothing after that last head injury. Like I could be driving down the interstate going to a doctor's appointment and forget what road I'm on, forget what my name is, forget what I'm doing, forget what state I'm in.
Wow. Well, you certainly remember quite a bit about your past in relation to being a guard and being a prisoner.
It was burned in, to be honest. I mean, I mean, there was a couple of officers that got hemmed up too in the news too. I mean, it's crazy what goes on there,
Let's save that for the part 2.
Yeah.
Jason,
like I said, I like to talk too much, brother.
No, you're great. Listen, who knows, man? Maybe start your own damn thing and just share. You sit at home all day, you got nothing else to do, and you're great on this damn camera.
Hey, I would be game for doing, just helping you out along the way. I don't necessarily have to have my own thing, but as soon as I get my disability approved, I'm fixing to send you a chunk, bro.
Nah, don't do that. Don't send me nothing, man.
Because I got back pay coming.
Well, listen, treat yourself,
and you
man.
Helped me. Thank you.
We'll talk about that sober. Well, we'll talk about that more in the second part because there's more things that I want to spend more time on. So many things that you shared in this video that I want to elaborate further on in the next one. I hope everybody who checked this out enjoyed this. If you did so, leave a like and a comment on this for this guy, Jason, right here. Jason, look, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I'm going to look forward to doing this again with you real soon, okay?
Maybe they enjoy it. Maybe I won't get cooked too much,
No, you're gonna get cooked for that blow me comment. You're definitely gonna get.
Oh, hey, and I'm game for that. I can throw it right back at them.
Get in that
Hey,
comment.
you ain't gonna see my name right there beside of all them celebrities that Diddy's saying.
Hey, listen, man, get up in that comment section and joust with them. Look, Jason, pleasure talking with you. I'm gonna talk with you again soon. Okay.
All right, brother.
Hey,
Have a good day.
take care.
All right, you too.